they adjourned spring session last month, the Illinois legislature passed almost 450 measures that are going to be on the governor's desk this summer. And the governor already acting on one of them after the legislature sent about 5 to put on his desk. And one of those that is enacted, if you follow the Center Square at thecentersquare.com, you get the Illinois Quick Hits, and you'll see this story there. It says Pritzker signs Alzheimer's treatment law. So we'll touch on that and just take a look at some of the other things that they did tackle, but also did not tackle, including ethics reforms, as former Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan goes to federal court Friday to face sentencing for 10 counts of corruption charges from the federal government. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, editor for thecentersquare.com, Illinois, and you can find all kinds of headlines out of Illinois. We cover the Statehouse from a taxpayer's perspective. You can get the newsletter each and every weekday morning in your inbox, so be sure to plug into that and stay connected. But let's talk about it, right? Because if you've been following for a bit, you saw the activity from the end of session, a couple of weeks worth of just long nights and hundreds of bills being pushed through. Some were unanimous, others were contentious, long protracted debates on a slew of them. Some measures getting through both chambers and are queued for the governor's desk. Other measures not so fast. They were stalled. But one measure that the governor's already acted on is the Alzheimer's treatment law. And the law requires that state employee insurance programs cover medically FDA-approved treatments and medications for slowing the progression of Alzheimer's disease. The law also requires coverage for diagnostic testing for doctors to determine the best treatment. So, again, that's just one of the many, many bills that are going to be on the governor's desk. If you go to ilga.gov, and I like giving these tutorials every once in a while. Let me pull this up so you can see. Go to ilga.gov. And they are getting ready to change the page, which we'll see how that goes. But July 1st, they're going to end up changing this page over to a new format. Still a bunch of the same links, but it's going to be a new format here soon. So just beware of that. Some of these videos, if you're going back and taking a look, the website might not look the same. But go down and find legislative reports. If you hit legislative reports, then you can see a whole bunch of different categories, right? Inquiry reports, data inquiry reports, categorized reports. We're going to stick here right at the top, and notice it says first year and second year. We are in the first of the 2-year term for the 104th General Assembly. So we just finished up the first spring session of the 104th General Assembly. Next spring will be the second spring session for the 104th General Assembly, and then at the end of the year, it'll turn over to 105th General Assembly in 2027. So that's just a little bit of Illinois General Assembly 101. But if you go to categorized reports under first year, you can see the bills pending governor action, right? Okay, so it's right there, bills pending governor action. Click on that, and you'll see that the governor has on his desk now 4 measures. That's after you had the governor already act on one of them, and that was the Alzheimer's issue. So coming up, the governor could soon sign House Bill 850, and that was a measure that is purportedly to give due process to firearm owner ID card holders who are denied or revoked, to be able to get information about why they were revoked or denied, and to appeal that. Opponents of the measure said, listen, this is not really due process because you're using an administrative function to take away somebody's rights without there being a court hearing and evidence presented. So if this measure, House Bill 850, gets signed, there may be some lawsuits filed over that. So again, these are the 4 bills out of 440. These are the 4 bills on the governor's desk at this moment. Now, typically what's going to happen over the summertime, you're going to have Friday, I call bill sign dumps. The governor's going to release, a list of a dozen bills he signed on a Friday afternoon. There have been times where the governor's released a list of 250 bills that he signed on a Friday afternoon. There's also going to be news conferences. We're going to see a news conference about the budget being signed. We're going to see a news conference about a whole bunch of other things. Could there be a news conference about House Bill 850 with the void card due process measure put in there? We'll see. But again, go back to ilga.gov where you can go back to the categorized reports, and we looked at the bills pending the governor's desk, right? Governor action, bills pending governor action. But you can also look at House bills that passed both houses. So House bills that went through both chambers. And you will go through and you'll see all of these measures, and total there is 200, it's a lot of legislation. 233 measures passed, right? And just kind of scrolling through, you could see some of the general topics these impact, but keep in mind, some of these may be gut and replaces. So these titles don't necessarily stay the same when they do the gut and replace. But you can see some of the headlines here, opioid antagonists, opioid overdose reports, affordable housing measures, eviction of minors. You've got data collection laws, a bunch of different stuff concerning, various funding mechanisms. You've got, a license plate law? There's likely going to be a lot of those. A whole host of 400 plus. I mean, I'm just scrolling through here, and you can see you could spend a week and a half going through all of this. But also in the Senate, you can see what Senate bills passed both chambers. And click on that, and you'll see right at the top, you've got Senate Bill 8, Safe Gun Storage. That is queued for the governor's desk, and that is the measure that ultimately says that firearms owners have to put their firearms in a locked case in their home, any premise they're on, in their own job, or in a vehicle, for instance. This had a lot of debates, passed the House on the final day of spring session, and likely it's going to face litigation if the governor signs this, because it also makes it, for a second time, not reporting a lost or stolen firearm within 48 hours. You could lose your FOID card. And several other measures tacked in there. I talked with Illinois State Rifle Association's Richard Pearson, and he anticipates there's going to have to be some challenges to the safe gun storage law.
So the safe storage law, we have to bring forth plaintiffs and that sort of thing. So we'll have to wait for that. We'll probably be dealing with that as soon as we have plaintiffs that can bring forth a solid argument. And so we'll be doing that. But getting back to the case before the Seventh Circuit on PICA is, so after this, now we'll be waiting for oral arguments after the state files its answer.
So yeah, you kind of bounced there a little bit back to the PICA conversation that we had in the previous segment. But yeah, the safe gun storage stuff, clearly that's going to bring about some concerns and litigation. So a lot of measures are going to be, signed this summer. 440 bills are going to be kind of drip, drip, drip onto the governor's desk in the days ahead. So we'll be unpacking a lot of that for you here with Illinois in Focus Daily. But one thing that didn't get passed was ethics reforms. Ethics reforms on the House floor Sunday morning, June 1st, 2:30 in the morning. I was in the chamber running a camera, and House Minority Leader Tony McCombie stood up and said they've got a lot of challenges that they did not address in the General Assembly with Democrats at the supermajority.
Ethics reform. We continuously push for integrity and accountability. It's really quite amazing that we have not addressed ethics this General Assembly after the LIG resigned December of 2021, or after the conviction of the longest-serving speaker in the nation's history. Moving forward, House Republicans will continue to push for structural reforms that will grow our economy, push for fair and transparent processes, push for school choice and good educational outcomes, and we will push for public safety, putting victims before criminals. Let's be honest, we all know Illinois can do better. And deep down, I honestly believe that we all of us, want to do better.
So again, the idea of no ethics reforms ultimately approved. All of this while you've got the longest serving Statehouse Speaker facing possibly 12 and a half years. Jim Talamonte been in court a couple of times this week already with a couple of different moments of former Speaker heading into the federal court building. Here he is from yesterday. Walking in, photographers taking pictures, Jim's taking video. There's the speaker. Former speaker, convicted felon. He is clearly, going to be in court hearing his fate, whether he's going to do 12 and a half years and pay $1 million+ in fines. But, again, no real ethics reforms. One thing that you had being proposed by Republicans was so that Madigan and others couldn't use their campaign funds to defend themselves against criminal liabilities. Which is what Madigan's been doing, is using his campaign fund. Tony McCombie talking with Jim Talamonte for his story, saying that that needs to end.
And I'm sure there's still quite a bit of money left in that. I don't think $2.5 million for almost 50 years of unethical, and proven on 10 counts of corruption.
So we'll see what happens Friday in federal court for the sentencing. But some of the things that were being proposed for an omnibus bill, where they put a whole bunch of ethics things in there. Because, keep in mind, earlier this year, you'll see some segments from Illinois in Focus where, Republicans were saying we need ethics reforms. We're not getting any. And I would go to the Democratic chair of the Illinois House Elections and Ethics Committee, and he said that they would have subject matter hearings on ethics proposals. We didn't really see that. And I think one ethics, final committee hearing was canceled, and that spurred on Republicans to say, we're not going to get anything. So there was an omnibus elections and ethics measure that didn't get all the way across the finish line. It included things like allowing for candidates for federal office to have campaign fundraisers outside of Sangamon County, which is where the seat of state government is in Springfield, during session days. It's an ethical issue, right? They don't want legislators holding campaign funding parties outside of Sangamon County or in the area for when they're in session. So they want to relax that for people who are running for federal office. Could it help Pritzker, who's going to run for president, possibly, as people are speculating? What about Juliana Stratton, the lieutenant governor, running for federal office to take Durbin's U.S. Senate seat? But there was also a measure in there that would have allowed for some of what Illinois Senate President Don Harmon's facing, with questions of how he got campaign funds. He's actually facing a potential multi-million-dollar fine of allegations that there was improper campaign contributions flowing back and forth. So he had a measure that was part of this omnibus bill that could have, relaxed some of the things he's currently under fire for. But Governor Pritzker, the June 1st, 7 hours after they adjourned spring session early in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, Governor Pritzker holding a news conference, and he's asked about why no ethics reforms, but was being proposed wasn't really, strong ethics reforms, especially considering Mike Madigan is facing 12 and a half years in prison.
I think you're aware that nearly every year that I've been governor, we have addressed ethics. I talked about it a lot with regard, for example, to the utilities that have been accused in those cases that you're referring to. I think in 2020, in my State of the State speech, I talked about the fact that we're not going to let utility companies make decisions for the majority of people in the state of Illinois. They're not going to be the ones who are directing the legislation that addresses energy, but rather, that the voices of the people would be heard. And that happened. And indeed, we included within CEJA ethics legislation. People don't pay a lot of attention to that. They think that ethics legislation has to sit as a separate thing, but actually within a lot of the major issues that we're addressing, we address ethics. So, I think that, once again, ethics hugely important to me. We try to address them whenever we can. We had a very busy session. There were, in fact, discussions with, with the chair of the committee in the House anyway about his ideas for this. So we're going to continue to address it wherever we can. And I don't think you can ever stop talking about how do you make sure that we have a corruption-free and an honest government.
Again, that's Governor J.B. Pritzker, just hours after the Illinois legislature wrapped up spring session, June 1st, being asked about the lack of ethics moving through and getting approved that actually had teeth. Well, some Democrats say, listen, the federal government's on this. I mean, they're busting people in Illinois left and right, including states' elected officials. So there's already laws on the books, but Republicans want the Legislative Ethics Commission to have more ability to subpoena and the Inspector General to have more ability to subpoena. They want campaign finance reform to not allow people to use their campaign finance to fund criminal defense. They also want term limits. Where are we going to get term limits? Madigan was in office for 50 years. He was Speaker for all but 2 years, from 1983 to 2021, while also serving for, 23 years as the Democratic Party chairman. That's a nexus of power that allowed him to control the party purse in front of legislators to get them to go with his agenda while he's convicted now of getting little to do nothing jobs for his associates with big utility companies. All right, we'll keep watching. It's Illinois in Focus, the Center Square. Get the headlines there. Subscribe here on YouTube for the latest, and we'll check back in with you tomorrow.